Hey guys, Matthew here. In this video, I want to talk to you about the history of computer graphics and some of the tricks that we used. Well, one really important trick that was used that will kind of uncover particular results when we begin to gamify our architecture. So, the first thing we need to understand is that meshes are not real objects. They're kind of theoretical objects in the computer. And at the end of the day, the only thing that exists are pixels. So the game becomes how many mesh faces can I push to the pixel array in some reasonable amount of time. Seeing that games work in effectively real time, this limit is called the poly limit. And as computers got better, we moved from some sort of low poly count, and a poly is a mesh face, so a low poly count to kind of a medium poly count to a high one, right? Like this Sonic over here. So there are kind of technical increases. At the same time as hardware got better, there are a series of modeling practices and modeling conventions that were designed in order to optimize this. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to kind of just draw a really basic cube, right? I'm just going to draw it so it's in some sort of kind of reasonable kind of perspective-y view. All right, look at my beautiful cube. This is amazing. Look at it. It's pretty ugly, but let's kind of now dash in the grey line the back faces here, the dash lines that you're used to seeing as a kind of a representation. Now, what we want to do is figure out a way that we actually have to calculate the least number of faces possible. So if you're looking at this video, you know, it's evident that you would only ever have to draw these three faces. The ones behind that, you never have to draw. So you really want to figure out a way so that you can cull those faces from your drawing order. So you actually have to draw less polygons to screen. So if we looked at this in plan, for example, and just ignored face 3. So my eye, I'll draw that in cyan, is looking this way. And I have a cube that looks something like this. Voila. So, and this one here is face 2, and this one here is face 1. And we know that we'll never have to draw that face or that face. Now the question is, how does the computer figure that out? It's pretty obvious that there's a wall blocking it here, but how does the computer know that they would never be able to see that? And the way it does it is with something called a normal. Now, traditionally, a normal will face to the outside of the object. So it's perpendicular to a face, so it'll always be 90 degrees to the face it's on. So I'm going to draw some 90 degree squares here. Voila, look at those, aren't they beautiful? But when we look at this in plan, I just need to obsessively compulsively draw the last arrow. When we look at how it works in plan, we notice that the normals are kind of facing towards the eye on the ones we can see, and they're facing in the same direction as the eye on the one we can't. I mean, the algorithm is a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the general rule of how kind of real-world solid geometry would actually kind of exist in a digital space. My eye is here, therefore I can only see the objects which are facing towards that eye, assuming that all the normals are facing out, which is a standard that's been designed. So that's kind of interesting. So a problem arises now. What happens if we delete these two faces here closest to the eye? Well, we end up with something like this, right? With the normal facing this way and the normal facing this way. And let's draw the eye just so it's completely clear. There's my eye. I'm going to put a little iris. There we go. Now, the algorithm says that because these are facing kind of in the same direction as the eye, that I just don't draw these, so I don't waste my hardware rendering polygons that I'm not going to see. So effectively, if I was inside this cube, everything would be invisible, which is a bit of an abstract concept. But if we look at, again, the plan of the cube, and I'll draw a new one just so it's completely clear, and I'm looking anywhere in this cube, I'll just draw an eye looking this way. No matter where I am, these arrows will always be facing in the direction that I can't really be seeing. So when I'm in a cube, everything is invisible. When I'm outside a cube, I can see the cube really, really easily. And when you begin to draw more complex shapes, you begin to actually realize that this rule is pretty robust. It's kind of quite hard to break as a principle, that all the normals that I'm supposed to see will kind of be facing in the right direction. So, and all the normals that I can't see will be facing in, the direction towards the eye, and we can just choose to color those. So if I choose a new color for that, probably red makes sense because we're going to color them. I can't see that. I can't see that. I can't see that. And there's no way that a solid object would ever allow me to be able to see that side of that face. There always has to be this object here. So the general principle that you really should be considering when modeling for virtual reality is that we don't have infinitely thin things. At the end of the day, let's put an X there because that's bad. At the end of the day, we will have some sort of object that has a degree of thickness to it, so that the normals are always facing outside, and that we can see the object from any given angle, because in virtual reality and the gamified world, you can move around the object however you want. And that's effectively what you need to know around meshes and how the computer optimizes that. So it has to draw as little to the hardware has to draw as little as possible. So that's all for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. This project was supported by a UTS Widening Participation Strategy, First Year Experience Grant, funded through the Australian Government Higher Education Participation and Partnership Program. The videos were produced by Matthew Austin and Adrian Taylor.